Hello, I'm going to read chapter 2 of the book Darren Shawn, Tunnels of Blood. Let's begin. I froze at the touch of the blade and the threatening voice, but Mr. Crepsley didn't even blink. He gently pushed the knife away from my throat, then tossed the silver cross to me. Gavner, 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 Mr. Crepsley sighed. I always could hear you coming from half a mile away. Not true, the voice said peevishly, as the blade drew back from my throat. You couldn't have heard. Why not? Mr. Crepsley said. Nobody in the world breathes as heavily as you. I could pick you out blindfolded in a crowd of thousands. One night, Larton, the stranger muttered. One night I'll catch you out. We'll see how smart you are then. Upon that night I shall retire disgracefully. Mr. Crepsley chuckled. Mr. Crepsley cocked an eyebrow at me, amused to see I was still stiff and half afraid, even though I'd figured out our lives weren't in danger. Shame on you, Governor Pearl, Mr. Crepsley said. You have frightened the boy. Seems all I'm good for, the stranger grunted. Scaring children and little old ladies. Turning slowly, I came face to face with a man called Governor Pearl. He wasn't very tall, but he was wide, built like a wrestler. His face was a mass of scars and dark patches, and the rims around his eyes were extremely black. His brown hair was cut short, and he was dressed in an ordinary pair of jeans and a baggy white jumper. He had a broad smile and a glittering yellow teeth. It was only when I glanced down at his fingertips I spotted 10 scars that I realized he was a vampire. That's how most vampires are created. Vampire blood is pumped into them through the soft flesh at the ends of their fingers. Darren, this is Governor Pearl, Mr. Crepsley introduced us. An old, trusted, rather clumsy friend. Governor, this is Darren Shawn. Pleased to meet you, the vampire said, shaking my hand. You didn't hear me coming, did you? No, I answered honestly. There, he boomed proudly. See? Congratulations, Mr. Crepsley said dryly. If you're ever called upon to sneak into a nursery, you should have no problems. Governor grimaced. I see time hasn't sweetened you, he noted. As cutting as ever. How long has it been? 14 years? Maybe 15? 17 next February, Mr. Crepsley answered promptly. 17, Governor whistled. Longer than I thought. 17 years, and as sour as ever. He nudged me in the ribs. Does he still complain like a grumpy old woman when he wakes up? He asked. Yes, I giggled. I could never get a positive word out of him until midnight. I had to share a coffin with him once for 4 whole months. He shivered at the memory. Longest 4 months of my life. You shared a coffin? I asked incredulously. Had to, he said. We were being hunted. We had to stick together. I wouldn't do it again, though. I'd rather face the sun and burn. You're not the only one with cause for complaint, Mr. Crepsley grunted. Your snoring nearly drove me to face the sun myself. His lips were twitching, and I could tell he was having a hard time not smiling. Why were you being hunted? I asked curiously. Never mind, Mr. Crepsley snapped before Gavner could answer, then glared at his ex-partner. Gavner pulled a face. It was nearly 60 years ago, Larton, he said. I didn't realize it was classified information. The boy is not interested in the past, Mr. Crepsley said firmly. I most certainly was. You are my soil, Governor Pearl. I would ask you to respect my wishes. Stuffy old bat, Governor grumbled, but gave in with a nod of his head. So Darren, he said, what you do at the Cirque du Freak? Odd jobs, I told him. I fetch food for the little people and help the performers get ready for the little people still travel with the Cirque. Gavner interrupted. More often than ever, Mr. Crepsley answered. There are 20 with us at the moment. The vampires shared a knowing glance, but said no more about it. I could tell Gavner was troubled by the way his scars knit together into a fierce-looking frown. How goes it with the generals? Mr. Crepsley inquired. Usual old routine, Gavner said. Gavner is a vampire general, Mr. Crepsley told me. That sparked my interest. I'd hear of the vampire generals, but nobody had told me exactly who or what they were. Excuse me, I said, but what's a vampire general? What do they do? We keep an eye on rows like this, Gavner laughed, nudging Mr. Crepsley. We'll make sure they don't get up to mischief. The vampire generals monitor the behavior of the vampire clan, Mr. Crepsley added. They make sure none of us kills innocents or use our powers of evil. Thank you.